extras now. Been good. Shayla. Great rising. TT. Hey, hey. That's Wobble. That's Wobble. Let me out. My YouTube up. It's plugged in. Blessings of God. Shalom. Shalom. Okay, let's stop. I'm gonna do a test on the chat real quick. Oh, we good. I'm Belinda Brown. Hey, Auntie. I'll be checking the chat first thing when I get up here because I still don't know why it wasn't working the other day. The whole chat was out, but apparently everybody was there chatting along. Okay. So let's do this. Get this board up. Look, y'all. I had this, this dream last night. It's not all like super spiritual, nothing like that, but it was a pretty fun dream. I just want to share it with you. It was pretty cool. Shalom, Trina, hey girl, hey Batabu, Josiah, shalom, brother, mom, shalom, shalom, Alicia, Yah, hey girl, hey. That's Wabu. Okay, let me pull this up. It was a pretty cool dream. It really was. Look. It was spiritual, but it was cool. It was real cool. So I'm gonna share it with y'all in a second. But let me get started before I do all that and forget to do the shimmer. All right, y'all. Happy Saturday. It is Saturday, April the 24th. Y'all, we're about to be in May. I swear, time just. I know I say this all the time, but it really does. How time flies never ceases to amaze me. Every time we look up, we further down the line. Okay, y'all. It is Saturday, April 24th, 2021, day 136 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 805. Remember, that is without the Sabbath days and the feast day Sabbath days added in, because we are commanded to rest on those days. And because we're commanded to rest, because we do this every day, we kind of look at it as work days. So I'm working here, so we take the Sabbath off even here. Although I don't take the Sabbath off from reading scripture at all, like every day I read or listen to it. But because I come up here and doing this is, although it's not considered work, I love to do it. But just so we can find a way to keep the principle, we rest from doing the live, on the Sabbath, right? So just to practice so people can see, just in case they didn't know how. Okay, boom. So just in case you forget, when you don't see us here, it's the Sabbath. Hopefully, don't take my channel down anytime soon or whatever, right? I try to stay away from titles that I try to use catchy titles, but I try to stay away from titles that will trigger YouTube's red flag. Oh, y'all, excuse my nails. Bella, I know they're a little horrid. Baby girl, she said, Mom, let me paint your nails. I said, okay, to you. So I bought her this little, this little set. It came with her little purse and wallet and little cell phone thing and her keys. And it came with this little nail set and stuff. I thought, oh, that's cute. Then she wanted to paint my nails. So she made me sit down last night while she was painting my nails. I peeled this off, but I couldn't get it all off. I forgot. I was like, shoot, let me peel this off, but I couldn't get it all off, y'all. So that's that. Y'all probably looking like, oh my gosh, her nails, what in the world? But yeah, Tootie Baby was painting my nails. Okay, y'all. So today we'll be reading 2 Kings 15, 16, and 17. And we'll hop over to the Legends of the Jews. We didn't get to read it yesterday. So we're going to hop over to page 499 and pick up there with the missing pieces of Esther. And also yesterday, if y'all didn't go back to the video yesterday, remember what we was talking about towards the end of the video. My glasses is fogging up. What we was talking about towards the end of the video, I shared a link with y'all, right? And I put in there, take some unbiased time when you get a chance and go back and watch this. It's a 2-hour documentary on Trayvon Martin. And a lot of the stuff that happened and that didn't happen. And there was somebody who did a documentary completely unbiased in the whole situation, but he followed it. You know, he was saying that things weren't adding up, but with the lawyer that they had and just a lot of different things, witnesses, surprise information. So I was like, you know, this dude is a really good investigator. It's a 2-hour documentary, but I'm telling you, it's worth them 2 hours to go watch it, right? And you will see a lot of different things that you may have missed. Things before the trial, things after the trial, things that we see now because of this, the whole thing with Trayvon Martin. It's really good. You watched it? Yo. Look. And the title of it is called The Trayvon Martin Hoax. But they're going to explain to you exactly what that hoax is, right? As you get through towards the end of the video, because they're going to bring it out. And they say, and this is the Trayvon Martin hoax. But they got to build you up to it so you can see everything in its proper context without some of the lies surrounding it. Yo, I'm just like, what? And so it's like, yep, that's the media for you. And we all know that. You really can't trust the media, right? They show what they want to show you to continue pushing a certain narrative, right? So they can pass different laws and just all this other stuff. But anyway, enough about that. Look, y'all, let me share with y'all this dream I had last night, right? Okay, like I said, it's not like super spiritual, nothing like that. Shayla said my jaw dropped several times. Look, for those that didn't see it, and if you didn't go back yesterday, I'll drop it in the comment section here today, and I'll pin it at the top in the comments, and it'll be in the description box. So just in case you can't find it, I'll post it here today. I'm telling you, it's worth the watch, especially our people. It's really worth the watch, right? And I want you to really pay attention to, even if you had to go back and watch the video that I was talking about yesterday, and the whole reason why that even came up, I had no clue I was going to be talking about. Although I never said his name yesterday, y'all got the hint when I put the hood on my head. Like, I didn't even plan putting the hoodie on, but it just came up based on the scripture I was bringing out about Yahuah saying that the parents wouldn't be punished for the children's sins, and the children would not be punished for the parents' sins, and all that just kind of flowed together. Even with the question, the guy Incognito came in yesterday, all that kind of just tied together. I'm like, you know what, y'all, this was pretty amazing. This was pretty amazing, the way all this kind of tied together. You know, we was about to kick Incognito out, but what he said, although it seemed off topic for the moment, I was able to tie it in to the reading. So that was awesome. But still, those with the wrenches, if you got anything pop in there that kind of seem off topic to y'all, if I don't catch it, y'all still have my full permission to go ahead and delete, right? Go ahead, delete away, right? Because we'll need distractions. I don't need to always be tying in people's comments either, but that was just, we just happened to be able to do that yesterday. But I don't want to get sidetracked from what we're doing. So now that that's said, feel free to use your wrenches, those of you that have them and know how to use them. I trust the ones I gave the wrenches to, I trust your judgment, right? Okay, so then we'll talk about it later. You can tell me why you deleted it, especially if I missed it. Okay, so yes, it's definitely worth the watch. Excuse me. I ain't forget my water bottle today. Okay, so let me tell you about this dream I had. Like I said, it's not super spiritual, but it showed me something about the current generations, right? Okay, so I was at this house. And at this house, there was this choir full of all people, full of black people, right? And we was all a part of this choir. And we was in there, and we was singing this song of worship, right? I call worship songs those slower songs. Praise songs are like the fast ones that gotta, you can kind of move around. But I call worship songs the slower songs, right? So we were singing a worship song. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a song that was really beautiful. The only thing was, okay, let me just, before I explain it, let me just tell you what transpired in the dream. I'll tell it to you like this. Okay. So we was in there. Now we was packed in that house. Like, it was a house, I want to say there was definitely an upstairs. So it was, from what I could tell, it was definitely a 2-story house, because I could see as you walk in the front door, the stair, you could see the stairs going up. There were people, a lot of our people, all different age ranges, right? All up the stairs and all through the hallway of the house. And it really reminds me of a childhood home that I grew up in on Tanners Creek. Mama, those of you that hear family, the house we stayed, the townhouse we stayed on Tanners Creek, it sort of had that whole outlay, but it wasn't that, it wasn't a townhouse, it was a house. But it seemed to still have that same floor plan where you walk in the front door, the stairs go up, and then there's the living room right here. You can see the hallway here, but it's a open. You can kind of walk through the whole downstairs, because you walk in, you can either go in the hall, go into the den, then into the kitchen, and over here to the main dining room, then back into the living room. So it was an open floor plan where you could walk through the whole downstairs and go either way and circle around, right? But there were also doors where you can compartmentalize and cut different rooms off, but it was still like a free flow, right? So we were there, like I said, all different age ranges of black people, and it was a choir, right? It was like we were singing this song. But every time, like I said, the only words that I can remember from this song was that when they got to JC, they didn't say Christ on the end of it, but they just said the first part, the J part. It was like I would, how you hear nails going down a chalkboard? Every time they got to that, I literally would like cringe. I'm like, what in the world? But it was like there was worshiping. You know how people, they be all into the worship and they just worshiping, they're all into it, and they just kept flowing like nothing was wrong. But it really started to get to me because it kept interrupting the worship for me, right? And I'm like, this is not bothering anybody else. I'm looking around, and everybody, they just saying it, flowing with the words and stuff. And it was like the first time it did it, it disrupted me. I'm like, what are you saying? And then so I tried to get back into it, and every time they got to it again, it disrupted the worship. And I'm just like, oh, this is tiring. I'm like, Father, we can't keep doing this, right? And that's what I was saying mentally in my head. So just as the song was about over, they kind of, how it dies down and just kind of goes to the end of the song. As it was dying down, I raised my hand. And the choir director, I knew the choir director, but I don't remember who it was. And I want to say the choir director was a man, but I just can't really tell, but I knew who the choir director was. And I raised my hand. And he said, yes, Pam. I said, can I say something? He said, sure, go ahead. I said, okay. I said, can I make a suggestion? And everybody was looking like, okay, yeah, what's your suggestion? I said, okay. First of all, let's just first make sure we all agree on something. I said, first of all, and I looked around the house, looking at everybody. Everybody had their eyes on me. I said, can we all agree that the God we all worship is the God that created heaven and earth? And everybody said, yes, that's the God we worship, yes. I said, okay, can we also all agree that this God, the creator of heaven and earth, was also the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Everybody said yes. And we worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who was the creator of heaven and earth. They said yes, that's who we worship. I said, okay. I said, the prophets, who did they worship? Him, the God of everybody, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I said, okay, so can we also say that we worship the same God that the prophets, like Isaiah, Jeremiah, all them, we worship that same God, right? Which is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who created the heavens and earth. Yes, everybody was in agreement, right? I said, okay, now that we all agree upon that, I said, can we all agree on, look, and I said it because you have to use wisdom with people who are steeped in in church doctrine, right? You have to find some way to break their state. I was kind of chatting with Trina a little bit about this yesterday. I said, because I understood that, and they just so freely flowing was saying his name in the worship song, was like they wasn't getting it. This is how I worded the next phrase. I said, can we also agree that based on what you know right now, that JC also worship the God? Look, and I was kind of saying it slow because I didn't want to lose anybody, right? I said, can we also agree, based on what you know, that JC also worship and he prayed to the God who created heaven and earth, whom Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the prophets worship? They said, yes, yes. I said, then why are we worshiping him in our praise song? And everybody just kind of started looking around. They was like, it just got quiet, right? And I said, why are we singing worship songs to him? Didn't he in fact tell us to worship God? I said, then why are we worshiping him, right? And they all just kept looking around. Like, somebody was like, like they had got it. I said, so can we, and here is my suggestion. I said, can we do what they used to do? Because that's what's commanded of us. Can we only worship God? I said, can we change the words of this song? And instead of saying JC, but I didn't say the C part, I just said, just for the sake, because I don't want to, every time I said I want to spit on the ground. Can we remove that name, and can we worship the true creator? And can we put his name in there and forget that one? It was like, you know how people are just like, I don't see a problem with that. Okay, well, you just made a good point. That's what was, okay. And everybody just kind of agreed. They just kind of looking around like, well, I guess we could. We are the ones singing the song. I guess we could do that. You know, it's like, it's like, you know how sometimes you're thinking about something and the whole house, they were all like contemplating, but you could see them contemplating this, like what I had just said, like they had never seen it like that before. I said, is that okay? I said, can we do that? Can we do it the right way? And it was like, well, yeah. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We didn't even realize we was doing it wrong, right? And it was so cool. And so then I said, there was this young guy. He had to be about 17 years old. And after I said, based on what you know, didn't JC also say worship God, right? And there was a 17-year-old kid who was a part of the choir, and he had on he had on blue jeans and a white tee, right? And he looked, and he stood, well, he was already standing up, but it was like he had a piece of candy. I want to say like a Twizzler or something in his hand. It didn't necessarily look like a Twizzler, but it was like a piece of candy. He kind of had like, where did I go? You know, and he kind of like, he was like eating it, but then he let it hang out his mouth, like to think, like, you know how you do, you thinking like, And that's what he did. Then he looked at me. He said, yeah, that's in the Old Testament. I remember reading that. Then people was looking around, and I said, yes. I said, as a matter of fact, Yahuah tells us what his name is. He said, my name is, I say, here's what your Bible say. It says, my name is Yahweh forever. I said, but Yahweh is a mistransliteration and a mispronunciation of the actual name, which is actually Yahuah. So he says that my name is Yahuah forever. I said, and you can actually shorten it. I said, you can just call him Yah. If you want to, you can say Yahuah, the full name, or you can just say Yah. And it was like, and he was like, yeah, I read that. You know, and he kept on eating his candy. And everybody was just kind of like looking around like, yeah, we can do that, you know. And so then we still in there, but now the scene kind of it didn't change, but people began to leave out the room, and there was only 4 people left in the room. And this time you could see the couches that were sitting in there, and I was sitting on a okay, so make sure you get okay. So I'm standing like in the middle. Okay, say you are facing a house, right? And you walk into the front door. So when you walk into the front door, to your left would be the living room. And that's where we were sitting at. Okay, so you walk in, right here on the wall, you got the door of the house when you walk in. And on this wall, there's a long window, right? And it had shades, but the shades were open. And so just like y'all, sometimes y'all kind of see the sunshine coming in here through the window, but it was a long window. There were shades, and it was open. And the sunshine was coming in. And so there was another teenage kid, and I could tell he was about 16. Maybe he was like a year younger than the first kid that was just speaking with the white tee on. And he was sitting right here. My sister Alicia was sitting in the corner right here. And one of my aunts was sitting beside my sister on the other wall. And I was sitting diagonally of my sister. So I was like right here, my sister, the young boy, and my aunt. And what I recognized about this scene was the generations, right? So that you would have like my mom's generation, which my aunt represented, and then you would have my generation, which me and my sister represented, and then you had this 16-year-old boy, which represented like our children's generation, right? So you got the parents, the children, and the children's children, right? And so I immediately knew that about this. I said, okay. And so I was sitting there and I was talking to all of them. My generation was talking to the 3 generations, right? And so I asked them, I said, okay, right? And it's still talking about Yahuah and who he is. And I said, darn it. Yo, it just left me real quick. Hold on. That's right. Father. Sorry, y'all. It just completely went blank. That is a hard. Okay, hold on. Yo. Let me start reading. Yo, I completely just forgot the rest of that dream. Okay, maybe I'm supposed to share that part yet. Yo, that literally just went blank. Okay, let's start. That's crazy. Let's start the reading. My glasses all fogged up. Yo, that's crazy. Father, I'm not supposed to share that part. Okay. Yo. Okay. Shalom, Joanne. Okay, maybe we'll come back. Maybe it'll come back to me as I get done reading. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and do the reading. That is wild. Okay, y'all. But first, let's do the shimmer. Look. That. Yo. Alright, y'all. Let's do the shimmer. I'm just like really flabbergasted about that. Like that whole scene just went blank. Okay. Let's do the shimmer. Okay. It's found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah, our God, he is one God, and you shall love Yahuah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. Okay. Let's go ahead and start the reading. 2 Kings, hopefully it'll come back to me by the time I'm done with this, y'all. That's crazy. Like, I am like, wait a minute. That's only happened a few times before. Okay, but I'm like, okay, well, maybe that, I was supposed to say this next part. That's crazy. Okay, y'all, look, okay. 2 Kings, chapter 15. Uzziah, son of Amaziah, began to rule over Judah in the 27th year of the reign of King Jeroboam the second of Israel. He was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 52 years, and his mother was Jechaliah from Jerusalem. He did what was pleasing in Yahuwah's sight, just as his father Amaziah had done. But he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. Yahuwah struck the king with leprosy, which lasted until the day he died. He lived in isolation in a separate house. The king's son Jotham was put in charge of the royal palace, and he governed the people of the land. The rest of the events in Uzziah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. When Uzziah died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, and his son Jotham became the next king. Zechariah, son of Jeroboam II, began to rule over Israel in the 38th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 6 months. Zechariah did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight, as his ancestors had done. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Then Shulem, son of Jabesh, conspired against Zechariah, assassinated him in public, and became the next king. The rest of the events in Zechariah's reign are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. So Yahuwah's message to Jehu came true. Your descendants will be kings of Israel down to the 4th generation. Shalem, son of Jabesh, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. Shalem reigned in Samaria only 1 month. Then Mehanim, son of Gadi, went to Samaria from Tirzah and assassinated him, and he became the next king. The rest of the events in Shalem's reign, including his conspiracy, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. At that time, Menahem destroyed the town of Tappuah and all the surrounding countryside as far as Tirzah because its citizens refused to surrender to the town. He killed the entire population and ripped open the pregnant women. Menahem, son of Gadai, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 10 years, but Menahem did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight. During his entire reign, he refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Then King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria invaded the land, but Menahem paid him 37 tons of silver to gain his support in tightening his grip on royal power. Menahem extorted the money from the rich of Israel, demanding that each of them pay 50 pieces of silver to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned from attacking Israel and did not stay in the land. The rest of the events in Menahem's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Menahem died, his son, Pekahiah became the next king. Pekahiah, son of Menahem, began to rule over Israel in the 50th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 2 years, but Pekahiah did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Then Pekahiah, son of Remaliah, the commander of Pekahiah's army, conspired against him with 50 men from Gilead. Excuse me. Hold on. Okay. With 50 men from Gilead, Pekahiah assassinated the king, along with Argob and Ariah in the citadel of the palace at Samaria, and Pekahiah reigned in his place. The rest of the events in Pekahiah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Pekahiah, son of Remaliah, began to rule over Israel in the 52nd year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 20 years, but Pekahiah did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. During Pekahiah's reign, King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria attacked Israel again, and he captured the towns of Ijon, Abel-Beth-Makkah, Genoa, Kadesh, and Hazor. He also conquered the regions of Gilead, Galilee, and all of Naphtali, and he took the people to Assyria as captives. Then Hosea, son of Elah, conspired against Pekah and assassinated him. He began to rule over Israel in the 20th year of Jotham, son of Uzziah. The rest of the events in Pekah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. Jotham, son of Uzziah, began to rule over Judah in the 2nd year of King Pekah's reign in Israel. He was 25 years old when he became king. He reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. His mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Jotham did what was pleasing in Yahuwah's sight. He did everything his father Uzziah had done. But he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and all the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. He rebuilt the upper gate of the temple of Yahuwah. The rest of the events in Jotham's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. In those days, Yahuwah began to send King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Israel to attack Judah. When Jotham died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, and his son Ahaz became the next king. All right, y'all. 2 Kings chapter 16. Ahaz, son of Jotham, began to rule over Judah in the 17th year of King Pekah's reign in Israel. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. He did not do what was pleasing in the sight of Yahuwah his God, as his ancestor David had done. Instead, he followed the example of the kings of Israel, even sacrificing his own son in the fire. In this way, he followed the detestable practices of the pagan nations Yahuwah had driven from the land ahead of the Israelites. He offered sacrifices and burned incense in pagan shrines and on the hills under every green tree. Then King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Israel came up to attack. They besieged Ahaz but could not conquer him. At that time, the king of Edom recovered the town of Elah for Edom. He drove out the people of Judah and sent Edomites to live there, as they do to this day. King Ahaz sent messengers to King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria with this message: I am your servant and your vassal. Come up and rescue me from the attacking armies of Aram and Israel. Then Ahaz took the silver and the gold from the temple of Yahuwah and the palace treasury and sent it as a payment to the Assyrian king. So the king of Assyria attacked the Aramean capital of Damascus and led its population away as captives, resettling them in Kir. He also killed King Rezin. King Ahaz then went to Damascus to meet with King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria. When he was there, he took special note of the altar. Then he sent a model of the altar to Uriah the priest, along with its design in full detail. Uriah followed the king's instructions and built an altar just like it, and it was ready before the king returned from Damascus. When the king returned, he inspected the altar and made offerings on it. He presented a burnt offering and a grain offering. He poured out a liquid offering, and he sprinkled the blood of peace offerings on the altar. Then King Ahaz removed the old bronze altar from its place in front of Yahuwah's temple, between the entrance and the new altar, and placed it on the north side of the new altar. He told Uriah the priest, use the new altar for the morning sacrifices of burnt offering, the evening grain offering, the king's burnt offering and grain offering, and the burnt offerings of all the people, as well as their grain offerings and liquid offerings. Sprinkle the blood from all the burnt offerings and sacrifices on the new altar. The bronze altar will be for my personal use only. Uriah the priest did just as King Ahaz had commanded him. Then the king removed the side panels and basins from the portable water carts. He also removed the great bronze basin called the sea from the backs of the bronze oxen and placed it on the stone pavement. In deference to the king of Assyria, he also removed the canopy that had been constructed inside the palace for use on the Sabbath day, as well as the king's outer entrance to the temple of Yahuah. The rest of the events in Ahaz's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. When Ahaz died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son Hezekiah became the next king.
It was upstairs, right? Mm-hmm. And now it's down here on the couch.
Because she brought it back down last night. Okay.
It was still up there on the football.
But I removed it from my foot locker and I put it on her bed. And she brought it back down. You just didn't see it. Because y'all was engaged in your whole gaming tournament.
No, yeah. Mom.
Yes. We'll talk about this in a minute. Hold on. Just go ponder on that for a little bit. Okay, y'all. Last chapter for today. 2 Kings chapter 17. Hosea, son of Eli, began to rule over Israel in the 12th year of King Ahaz's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 9 years. He did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight, but not to the same extent as the kings of Israel who ruled before him. King Shalmaneser of Assyria attacked King Hosea, so Hosea was forced to pay heavy tribute to Assyria. But Hosea stopped paying the annual tribute and conspired against the king of Assyria by asking King So of Egypt to help him shake free of Assyria's power. So when the king of Assyria discovered his treachery, he seized Hosea and put him in prison. The king of Assyria invaded the entire land, and for 3 years he besieged the city of Samaria. Finally, in the 9th year of King Hosea's reign, Samaria fell, and the people of Israel were exiled to Assyria. They were settled in colonies in Hala, along the banks of the Habor River in Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. This disaster came upon the people of Israel because they worship other gods. I'm going to read that again. This disaster came upon the people of Israel because they worship other gods. They had sinned against Yahuwah their God, who had brought them safely out of Egypt and had rescued them from the power of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. They had followed the practices of the pagan nations, and Yahuwah had followed the practices of the pagan nations Yahuwah had driven from the land ahead of them, as well as the practices of the kings of Israel had introduced. The people of Israel had also secretly done many things that were not pleasing to Yahuwah their God. They built pagan shrines for themselves in all of their towns, from the smallest outpost to the largest walled city. They set up sacred pillars and Asherah poles at the top of every hill and under every green tree. I was about to say something. It sounds like where it says they built pagan shrines for themselves in all their towns, from the smallest outpost to the largest walled city. Think about all these churches that they're building with the phallus all on top. You see them everywhere, right? Everywhere. They set up pillars and Asherah poles at the top of every hill and under every green tree. They offered sacrifices on all the hilltops, just like the other nations Yahuwah had driven from the land ahead of them. So the people of Israel had done many evil things, arousing Yahuwah's anger. Yes, they worship idols despite Yahuwah's specific and repeated warnings. Oh, Lord, listen to this, y'all. Yes, they worship idols despite Yahuwah's specific and repeated warnings. Again and again, Yahuwah had sent his prophets and seers to warn both Israel and Judah. Turn from all your evil ways. Obey my commands and decrees. The entire law that I commanded your ancestors to obey and that I gave you through my servants the prophets. But the Israelites would not listen. They were as stubborn as their ancestors who had refused to believe in Yahuwah their God. They rejected his decrees and the covenant he made with their ancestors, and they despised all his warnings. They worshipped worthless idols, so they became worthless themselves. Yikes. I read that again. They worshipped worthless idols, so they became worthless themselves. They followed the examples of the nations around them, disobeying Yahuwah's command not to imitate them. They rejected all the commands Yahuwah their God and made 2 calves from metal. They set up an Asherah pole and worshipped Baal and all the forces of heaven. They even sacrificed their own sons and daughters in the fire. They consulted fortune tellers and practiced sorcery and sold themselves to evil, arousing Yahuwah's anger. Because Yahuwah was very angry with Israel, he swept them away from his presence. Only the tribe of Judah remained in the land, but even the people of Judah refused to obey the commands of Yahuwah their God, for they followed the evil practices that Israel had introduced. Remember, the family had split, right? So Judah and Israel is still the whole big family of Israel all together, but when they split during King Solomon's son's time, Rehoboam, the 10 tribes that went under Jeroboam was called Israel, and the 2 tribes in the southern kingdom of Judah that was left to King Solomon's son, Rehoboam, was Judah and Benjamin. Remember, Levi was spread out between all of the other 11 tribes, right? So when it says Israel introduced, I mean the 10 tribes, Jeroboam and all his wickedness, they got kicked out first and scattered to the 4 corners, right? Judah was left, which was mainly the tribe of Judah, and Benjamin with some of Simeon, and of course some of Levi, right? And that was Judah. Them 2 tribes, they got to stand a little bit longer, right? And it was them who were scattered, right, at the last prophecy of the 400 years. We was the last ones to be scattered. When we were scattered, we found our brethren, right? Because they had been scattered way before we had, right? So that's why they found people that spoke like us when they got us to certain places. Wait a minute. They kind of, because we was related. That's our family, right? Okay. But even the people of Judah refused to obey the commands of Yahuwah their God, for they followed the evil practices that Israel had introduced. Yahuwah rejected all the descendants of Israel. He punished them by handing them over to their attackers until he banished Israel from his presence. For when Yahuwah tore Israel away from the kingdom of David, they chose Jeroboam, son of Nebat, as their king. But Jeroboam drew Israel away from following Yahuwah and made them commit a great sin. And the people of Israel persisted in all the evil ways of Jeroboam. They did not turn from the sins. They did not turn from these sins until Yahuwah finally swept them away from his presence, just as all his prophets had warned. So Israel was exiled from their land to Assyria, where they remain to this day. The king of Assyria transported groups of people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and resettled them in the towns of Samaria, replacing the people of Israel. They took possessions of Samaria and lived in its towns. But since these foreign settlers did not worship Yahuwah when they first arrived, Yahuwah sent lions among them, which killed some of them. So a message was sent to the king of Assyria. You can see how they did that too. Even if you look at the created state of Israel through the Balfour Declaration, we know that's not all the land. That little small slither is not going to hold all our people, right? But we see them, they did the same thing. Remember, Africa is a black continent. No matter if they dig a canal through there and try and chop it off from Africa and say it's a part of the Middle East, which is, y'all just made that up, right? It's northeast, it's East Africa, right? They split it up, they moved the people out, and they resettled people in. That's what they did. This is what they do all the time, right? Listen, I read it again. Where foreigners settle in Israel. The king of Assyria transported groups of people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and resettled them in the towns of Samaria, replacing the people of Israel, right? Remember, Yahuwah had scattered them. Y'all gonna get out of here. Y'all not keeping the rules of the land, so y'all gotta go, right? He sent the nation, scattered them out, got them out of there, sent them someplace else where they can act a fool, right? You go do that over there, but you ain't gonna do it in my house, right? And so the king, after all of Israel, the 10 tribes was moved out, they brought in other people to resettle in the land. The king of Assyria transported groups of people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and resettled them in the towns of Samaria, replacing the people of Israel. They took possession of Samaria and lived in its towns. But since these foreign settlers did not worship Yahuwah when they first arrived, Yahuah sent lions among them, which killed some of them. So a message was sent to the king of Assyria. The people you have sent to live in the towns of Samaria do not know the religious customs of the God of the land. He has sent lions among them to destroy them because they have not worshipped him correctly. The king of Assyria then commanded, send one of the exiled priests back to Samaria. Let him live there and teach the new residents the religious customs of the God of the land. Is that not what they did? Everything that they have learned from our people, right? Because the land was eating them up. So they had to keep to the laws. Look, they do it. They keep the laws of the land so they don't get rooted out, right? Look, even to this day, y'all. The king of Assyria then commanded, send one of the exiled priests back to Samaria. Let him live there and teach the new residents the religious customs of the God of the land. So one of the priests who had been exiled from Samaria returned to Bethel and taught the new residents how to worship Yahuah. But these various groups of foreigners also continued to worship their own gods. In town after town where they lived, they placed their idols at the pagan shrines that the people of Samaria had built. Those from Babylon worship idols of their god Sukkoth-Benoth. Those from Kuath worship their god Nergal. And those from Hamath worship Ashima. The Avites worship their gods Nibhaz and Tartak. The people from Sepharvaim even burnt their own children as sacrifices to their god Adremelech and Anamelech. These new residents worship Yahuah, but they also appointed from among themselves all sorts of people as priests to offer sacrifices at their places of worship. And though they worship Yahuah, they continued following their own gods according to the religious customs of the nations which they came. And this is still going on today. They continue to follow their former practices instead of truly worshiping Yahuah and obeying the decrees, regulations, instructions, and commands he gave the descendants of Jacob, whose name he changed to Israel. We can still see our people doing it. They told them to do that here too. They think they can worship God and worship JC at the same time and throw a couple of other ones in there as well. Yahuah said you cannot mix your praise and worship of me with the other gods. He said, and because you do that, I'm not accepting any of it, right? So put away all the other names and worship Yahuah alone, right? JC is not Yahuah and Yahuah is not JC. Just in case y'all haven't gotten that yet, even though some people try to teach that, right? Even if you try and teach that, that goes against even what you read in the New Testament, right? Because how was JC talking to y'all, right? Come on, some stuff don't make good common sense, right? Okay. For Yahuah had made a covenant with the descendants of Jacob. Listen. For Yahuah had made a covenant with the descendants of Jacob and commanded them, do not worship any other gods or bow before them or serve them or offer sacrifices to them, but worship only Yahuah, who brought you out of Egypt with great strength and a powerful arm. Bow down to him alone and offer sacrifices only to him. Be careful at all times to obey these decrees, regulations, instructions, and commands that he wrote for you. You must not worship other gods. Do not forget the covenant I made with you, and do not worship other gods. You must worship only Yahuah your God. He is the one who will rescue you from all your enemies. But the people would not listen and continued to follow their former practices. So while these new residents worship Yahuah, they also worship their idols. And to this day, their descendants do the same. Bruh. Now, let me tell y'all something. While I was reading through this last chapter, the last part of my dream came back to me, right? Okay, so let me finish it up. Okay. That was crazy. Listen. And it was really simple. I don't know why it just disappeared. Okay. So we sitting in the living room, right? It's crazy. One of my aunts is sitting right here. My sister Alicia is sitting right here, and there's a 16-year-old kid sitting right here. And he also had on a white tee. He had on some shorts, a black kid, right? And like I said, I could tell it represented the generations, like the parents, the children, and the children's children, right? So my aunt, me and my sister's generation, our generation, and then our children's children, like my kids, my sister's kids. This was the next generation, right? And I said to them, and it was almost like a repeat. And this is crazy. I don't know why I couldn't remember this. It was almost like a repeat of what I had just said to everybody that was there, that was singing a song. The house, like I said, the house was packed with people, but it didn't seem overrun. Like, oh, it's too hot in here. There's too many people in here. It was, you could look in there and see that it was packed and it was overrun, but there was space for everybody and everybody was comfortable. If that makes sense, right? So we were sitting there. I said, okay. And I was really just repeating what I was really just repeating what I said to them. I said, okay, so what does Yahuah say? He said, worship him alone, right? No, I waited to say that. I said, okay, what does Yahuah say? Right? I said, what does Yahuah say about worship? And I looked at my aunt, and she said, she just kind of looked. She did like this. She said, well, in the New Testament, but as she was saying in the New Testament, my sister Alicia jumped in, right? As she was beginning to speak, she said, well, the New Testament says, then after she said that, while she was saying, Alicia said, well, Yahuah says, and my sister began to explain it the right way. But she kind of gave the expanded story. She kind of explained it the way I did. Because you know how I'm explaining something to y'all, and I'll kind of build y'all up to it, and I give y'all examples before I get to the meat of what I'm saying, because I want to make sure you understand it in its proper context. And that's how my sister began to explain it. I said, you're right. I said, but some people, although it was just us four in there, I could tell, and all it seemed like everybody had walked out of the room, right? Because it just seemed like it was just us four there now. I could tell there was still hey guys, calm down. There was still an audience. It's like they were still there and they were watching and they were listening, but I couldn't necessarily see them with my physical eyes. I could really just see me, my aunt, my sister, and this 16-year-old kid sitting right here. I said, yes, but when I said, yes, you explained it the right way. I said, but that might be too many words for some people. You might lose them while you're explaining it that way. And then a 16-year-old kid, he said, worship God alone. I said, and I looked at them. Alicia shook her head. She said, I said, that baby got it. I said, baby, what you say? He said, worship God alone. I said, he said, as a matter of fact, he said, he constantly says it. He said, I first saw it in Exodus. I said, no. He said, I first saw it and my aunt bumped in. She said, the New Testament. He said, no, in Exodus. She said, well, it's crazy because I know this particular aunt of mine, I know she knows better. She knows what's the old and what's the new, right? And she said, well, I could have sworn that was in the New Testament. He said, no, that's the Old Testament. I said, say it again, baby. He said, it's found in Exodus such and I don't remember the verse he said, it's found in Exodus such and such. And we are to worship God alone. Like, and he was saying God. I was saying y'all, but he was saying God. But you could tell but he got it. He said, but we are to worship God alone. I said, you see this? I said, this baby got it. And it says it's simple, just like that, right? But what I understood was my aunt or my parents' generation. It's like the way I understood it, and when I understood it in the dream, it was just like that. I understood it, but I'm trying to explain it the way I understood it as I saw it. It's the generations, right? And I could see it happening now. It's like my aunt generation or my parents' generation. It's like they're still not quite. I ain't gonna say they don't understand it, but it's like they're still sleeping, right? I ain't gonna say all of them. Some of them are still sleeping because they're in the throes of the JC worship, and that's all they knew, right? This is right. What are you telling us? You blasphemy? You gonna have us go to hell, denying our Savior and stuff? That's that generation, right? But then it's my generation who is waking up, who have been raised in that, but was like, wait a minute, something is wrong about this. So it's me sent diagonally from my sister, and we're the generation that sees the split, and we see it. And this generation just completely got it right off rip, right? this generation was like my aunt, her generation, which would be my parents. It was like they're just kind of like, what? No, this is all we know. This is what we do. We've waken up. No, something is wrong. Wait a minute. Yahuwah said it's like we're getting it. So now we're trying to tell this generation and this generation, wait a minute, this is wrong. This is what it was like. It's like our generation is the generation that's waking up, teaching the truth, and the generation after us just gets it, right? And he said, worship God only. I'm like, say that again, baby. We are to worship God alone. I said, he got it, right? And so I can see that even if my own children, right? And I think I said this before, even like my first two children before Yahuwah really start opening my eyes to see, it was like my first two children, like Elijah and Jeremiah, they like 24 and 17. And so they kind of grew up hearing the JC name, right? Because that's what I was saying. That's what I knew before Yahuwah start waking me up. But the children that come after that, all they know is Yah. When we pray everything, all they is Yah this, Yah that, this. Mom, can you ask Yah? No, baby, you can ask Yah. Right? It's that generation right there, right? And I think based on that, we're the generation that's kind of help Yahuwah is using to, okay, here's where, and you got to look at it. We're the generation where, although our parents' generation, and even possibly a generation before them, because some of our parents' parents are still living, and blessed be the ones who are older than them in previous generations that are still living, right? Because there are a few people alive, quite a few people still alive from a couple generations. Blessed are they to even live this long to even see the restoration of Yahuwah's people, right? So this is our generation, is the generation which kind of flows through the other generations that are living, but I believe it's our generation that Yahuwah is using to kind of break the state of all the generations. Wait a minute, what are we doing? We have been doing this wrong. And we are reminding people, just like the prophets, we are to be worshiping Yahuwah alone. We're realizing, wait a minute, this is happening to us because we turned away from Yah. And the generation after us, because we are their parents, we are their teachers, they're going to be full of fire and Yahuwah's glory. Worship Yahuwah alone. That's what this generation, after my generation, our children, that's all that they're going to know. Yahuwah alone.
Hey.
Yes, baby.
Ma'am.
Ma'am. And so that was the end of the dream. I don't know. Maybe I just needed to say it after I finished reading today, but it came back to me while I was reading this last chapter. It triggered it because it was just going through it. Yahuwah kept repeating, worship me alone. Do not mix me with other gods, right? Yeah, so that was the end of that, y'all. Yes, ma'am. Yes. All right. I will be right there. So let's go ahead and hop over to the Legends of the Jews. What you say? There was a rainbow beside your head at the window as you was reading the last part of scripture. Really? I'm gonna have to go back and watch the videos. It's still there. Can you still see the rainbow?
Got you.
I just see bright sun. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the video. I'm gonna have to go back and watch. That's pretty cool if it did, right? Okay. Okay, y'all. So let's hop over here to the Legends of the Jews.
You're gonna throw away everybody's shoes. A whole lot of shoes we throw away.
Okay,
Y'all got a
y'all.
whole lot of shoes. Y'all haven't even a whole year still throwing away. Really.
Okay. Guys, can I get y'all to quiet down just a little bit, please? Thank you. Okay, casting a lot, y'all. Page 499. Oh, we'll definitely be done with this in a couple days. And if you haven't gotten your book, the next one we're going to be reading along with our daily reading is Fossilized Customs. Go ahead and get your copy. You can get it from Amazon. I just gave you the same link that I got mine from. I ain't getting paid for it, but this is what we're going to be reading along with scripture so we can go through some of the false teachings that have been perpetrated for previous generations where people are stuck in lies, right? We're breaking the state of all the lies, returning the people to Yahuwah alone. This is the way. Walk ye in it. Yahuwah is found here. Your help is found here, right? So we ain't going to be no more of these prayers, these hit and missing prayers, praying our prayers in the name of other gods or people that they done made into gods. Ain't going to be no more of that. That stops with our watch. Ain't no more of that, right? No more of that. We're going to learn the truth and we're going to walk in truth. All right. Casting lots. Haman's hatred, first directed against Mordecai alone, grew apace until it included Mordecai's colleagues, all the scholars whom he sought to destroy. Oh, hold on. I just remember another part of the dream. Hold on. Pause real quick. Look. Okay. So after the baby said, I call the baby, the 16-year-old said, worship God alone. I remember my aunt sitting up and she looked at him and she said, wait, that's found over in the, in the New Testament. He said, no, I first seen that in Exodus, right? And then it was like, when she was kind of trying to tell him, he said, no, he was pretty much saying, Yahuah said this here, and it was here, right? And like I said, I don't remember the scripture exactly that he gave off to tell her when he was speaking to her, and she was just looking like, okay, like she wasn't like, oh, don't try and tell me. She wasn't like that. She was actually listening. She was like, well, okay, yeah. And then what I noticed was, and I actually even said it out to her, I didn't say it at her like to talk down or anything. I said, and this is how we can tell those who actually go back and read the scriptures for themselves, because what you just said is teaching that has been given to you from someone else. The Bible doesn't even say this. So that's how we can tell those people who actually read scripture and those who only read what they're told to read, right? And then it went into another little portion that I still don't quite remember yet. But yeah, I just remembered that part as I was reading it. So I just wanted to add that in. Okay. So I just start over. I was only on like the second sentence. Haman's hatred, first directed against Mordecai alone, grew apace until it included Mordecai's colleagues, all the scholars whom he had sought to destroy. And not satisfied with even this, he plotted the annihilation of the whole of Mordecai's people, the Hebrews. Before beginning to lay out his plans, he desired to determine the most favorable moment for his undertaking, which he did by casting lots. First of all, he wanted to decide on the day of the week. The scribe Shimshai began to cast lots. Sunday appeared inappropriate, being the day on which Yahuah created the heaven and earth, whose countenance depends on Israel's existence. So we know here, right, as this guy is translating this, clearly we know Sunday, he's using pagan terms for this. But those of us who understand, we know we can kind of keep reading without being stumped up over words, right? Okay. All right, Trina, love you. Have a great day at work. Okay. The scribe Shimshai began to cast lots. Sunday appeared inappropriate, being the day on which Yahuah created heaven and earth, which will be the first day, although he said Sunday here, but it's the first day on which Yahuah created the heaven and earth, whose continuance depends on Israel's existence. Remember, we read about all of that. Yahuah said, for the sake of Israel, I'm creating this. I'm creating a people who I want to hang out with me, and I'm going to use this particular people to accomplish some of these things, right? And he calls us his firstborn son. Why? Firstborn means he has more sons, but the firstborn is the one who inherits everything, and they're the ones who teach the other nations, who would in turn should turn to Yah and become his sons and daughters as well, right? That's why he calls us his firstborn son, because he desires to get many more sons and daughters of the other nations, right?
Hey.
Yahuah desires to beget many more sons and daughters. And we, as his firstborn son, not one, but the whole of us,
yes, come on, talk.
Are commissioned with teaching the other nations about who he really is.
Firstborn and
Okay.
To get many more.
Yes, many more.
To get many more.
Many more sons and daughters.
So we have.
Look, don't start, because I know where you about to go. We got 6. Look, hold on. Okay, being the day on which Yahuah created heaven and earth, whose continuance depends on Israel's existence. Were it not for Yahuah's covenant with Israel, there would be neither day. Hey, calm down. If it were not for Yahuah's covenant with Israel, there would be neither day nor night, neither heaven nor earth. Monday showed itself equally unpropitious for Haman's devices, For it was a day on which Yahuah effected the separation between the celestial and the terrestrial waters, or the heavens above from the heavens below, symbolic of the separation between Israel and the heathen. Tuesday, the day on which the vegetable world was created, refused to give its aid in bringing about the ruin of Israel, who worships Yahuah with branches of palm trees. Wednesday, too, protested against the annihilation of Israel, saying, on me the celestial luminaries were created, and like unto them, Israel is appointed to illuminate the whole world. Right? Well, what I was just saying, right? Okay, so remember, we're still talking about Haman. Haman is trying to figure out which day he's going to choose to kind of have this decree set in motion to annihilate Israel, right? So he was going through the days to see which day he could choose for this before he took it to the king. Okay, we need to kill all of them because they doing this, right? Look. Wednesday, too, protested against the annihilation of Israel, saying, on me the celestial luminaries were created, and like unto them, Israel is appointed to illuminate the whole world. First destroy me, and then thou mayest destroy Israel. And we know that'll never happen. Thursday said, O Yah, on me the birds were created, which are used for sin offerings. When Israel shall be no more, who will bring offerings? First destroy me, then thou mayest destroy Israel. Friday was unfavorable to Haman's lots because it was the day of creation of man, and Yahuah said to Israel, ye are men. Least of all was the Sabbath day inclined to make itself subservient to Haman's wicked plans. It said the Sabbath is a sign between Israel and Yahuah. Right? Right? Those that keep Yahuah's Sabbath, we are sealed by him. It's a sign of our covenant, right? The Sabbath is a sign between Israel and Yahuah. First destroy me, and then thou mayest destroy Israel, which we know that'll never happen. So during the Sabbath, when Yahuah, just say he looks out over the earth, during the Sabbath, there will be complete stillness. Like we would be recognized immediately by the celestial realm, right? Because we're all in our place while the world is busy, moving around like a bunch of little ants moving. There are highlighted places all over the earth where there is peace, and there is no movement, and there is rest, and thereby that's the seal. Okay, so if something happens, these places you don't touch, right? The seal shines bright. It illuminates from these places because it's following that covenant, right? So destruction of bypass all these places that have been sealed. Some people, they don't get that yet, right? Okay. Baffled, Haman gave up all idea of settling upon a favorable day of the week. He applied himself to the task of searching out the suitable month for his sinister undertaking. As it appeared to him, Adar was the only one of the 12 owing naught that might be interpreted in favor of the Hebrews. The rest of them seemed to be enlisted on their side. In Nisan, Israel was redeemed from Egypt. In Ilar, Amalek was overcome. In Siwan, the Ethiopian Zerah was smitten in the war with Asa. In Tammuz, the Amorite kings were subjugated. In Ab, the Hebrews won victory over Arad, the Canaanite. In Tishri, the Hebrew kingdom was firmly established by the dedication of Solomon's temple, while in Heshwan, hey, Bella and Dad.
Hey, oh, I'm sorry. Hey, wait a minute.
She over there showing Dad all her stuff in her purse, and he just oh, girl, that's look, okay. Just take it down a little bit, people.
Hey.
While in Heshwan, the building of the temple at Jerusalem was completed. Kislev and Tebet were the months which Sihon and Og were conquered by the Israelites.
Let's take ourselves upstairs.
And in Shabbat occurred.
Well, we're not wanted.
You're wanted. Y'all just need to keep y'all voices low.
Let's go upstairs. We see what we're not wanted.
And in Shebat occurred the sanguinary campaign of the 11 tribes against the godless children of Benjamin. Not alone was Adar a month without favorable significance in Hebrew history, but actually a month of misfortune, the month in which Moses died. What Haman did not know was that Adar was the month in which occurred also the birth of Moses. Then Haman investigated the 12 signs of the zodiac in relation to Israel, and again it appeared that Adar was the most unfavorable month for the Hebrews. The first constellation, the ram, said to Haman, Israel is a scattered sheep, and how canst thou expect a father to offer his son for slaughter? The bull said Israel's ancestor was the firstling bullock. The twins, as we are twins, so Tamar bore twins to Judah. The crab, as I am called Saratan, the scratcher, so it is said of Israel that all that oppress him he shall scratch sorely. The lion, Yahuah is called the lion, and it is likely the lion will permit, and is it likely the lion will permit the fox to bite his children? The virgin, as I am a virgin, so Israel is compared unto a virgin. The balance. Israel obeys the law against unjust balances in the Torah and must therefore be protected by the balance. The scorpion. Israel is like unto me, for he too is called scorpion. The archer. The sons of Judah are masters of the bow, and the bows of mighty men are directed against them. The sons of Judah are masters of the bow, and the bows of mighty men directed against them will be broken. The goat. So if anybody know anything about the they call it horoscopes or the constellations, the signs or whatever, I have a book. It's called the which is it? It's the sixth and the seventh book of Moses, right? That joker is about this thick, but it goes into some detail as well about some of the ancient things they knew about the clock in the sky and how they divided it up. And so as I'm reading through it, I'm like, boy, they take everything. Like when even the zodiac signs and stuff, they take everything from nature, right? Everything is taken from nature, and they put their own little twist on it and giving you stuff. So people, you ever have people do birth charts and stuff? Like if you really understood all of this and understood the kind of wisdom Yahuah has given to his people, that he has put everything in nature for us to see. And a lot of times when you have the wrong people teaching you, they just put scary terms on it. Stay away from this. That's witchcraft. You don't want to do this, do this. Call it horoscopes, right? And they give you just enough to talk about it good and to talk about it real bad, right? Just to kind of keep you just glancing and keep on going. But if you really understood it and what it was, let me just give you a little bit. What's crazy is the way Yahuah has time divided up over the millennia, everything and every person has been accounted for. There are different times and generations where he sent different people, different times and months, right? And what they figured out is they kind of figured this out a little bit, just a little bit. But I can see the wisdom in it as I read it. I'm like, wow, this is amazing, And so, here's the thing. So, just a little bit. So, how people have different signs, right? Say Geminis. Geminis are all of them. They have like the same personality, so to speak. You got Scorpios, the Sag, and different ones, right? And so you would notice all of these people, they tend to have the same type of personalities. It's like even if you don't know, you can spot them. If you understood this, you could spot those people just by hearing them talk, seeing how they act, different things. You can tell, oh, you a Sag, right? Oh, that's a Gemini through and through, right? Those that understand this, understand there is a beautiful calculation on why all of this happens the way it is, because this is really a beautiful, magnificent puzzle where the pieces have been scattered all over the place. And some people understand some part about it. Other people understand the other little parts about it. Some people understand this little bit about it. But if you take all them pieces and put it together, you can see this puzzle coming together. Wait a minute. Well, how can they do this? And then let me tell you something I learned about, and I don't know if she's here today, because I know sometimes she come in and she listen. My daughter-in-law called me yesterday, and she, how much more we gotta go? Hold on. I'm going to finish saying this. My daughter-in-law called me yesterday, and she was telling me something. She said, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. She said, are we supposed to call psychics and ask them? Like, I was like, what do you mean? I said, y'all tells us to stay away from them, right? And I just did it joking. I said, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. She said, no. She said, no, listen, let me tell you this. And so she shared a story with me. And I'm like, oh, well, you better tell her not to do that. Because here is what I understand now by doing some of my study. Remember how we was reading over King Saul. Remember King Saul? They had banished all the witches, right? All the soothsayers and wizards and stuff like that, right? So when he went to go call up King Saul, remember the person who is conjuring up the spirit, they'll see the spirit come, they'll rise, but the spirit arise upside down, right? But they can see the spirit, but the person who went to go call up, hey, can you call up my granddaddy? The person is going to see granddaddy, but the person who asked you to call them up could only hear, right? So it's kind of all chopped and screwed. So the person who want to talk to granddaddy can only hear granddaddy's voice, and the witch or the soothsayer or the crystal ball reader, whoever, the conjurer who conjured up the person can see granddaddy arise upside down, but it's not really granddaddy, right? So it's the same thing. What I understand now, as I get to this day, what we realize is that that's not granddaddy. That's a demon spirit. You're not really hearing the voice of granddaddy, right? And so that's why they go upside down. The witch was taken aback when she saw Samuel actually come up, because Samuel had rose right side up. And that's why she was scared, because she knew that the spirit she talked to, they rise up upside down. Like you see them hang crosses, burn a cross and hang somebody upside down. When crucify you upside down, that's how they see the spirits come up. That's how they know they're operating with demonic entities, right? And it's not really operating with y'all. So I said, listen, let me tell you something. I said, here's something I understand about them. I said, don't listen to them. I said, they will give you some accurate information. I said, but Yahuah says for his people to come to him alone, right? The information that you're going to get from Yahuah, you go ask Yahuah the same stuff. He's going to give you the information that's going to be unbiased, and it's going to be good for all involved, right? I said that as she shared a little bit more with me, she shared some other things that this psychic, now she wasn't the one calling the psychic, because she was really concerned about a family member that was sharing some stuff with her about this. I said, tell her that she want to stay away from her, because as she began to share a little bit more, I said, see, now you see that information she just gave? She said, yeah, she said, now I know I don't read my Bible every day, and I don't claim to be this person. She said, but I knew something wasn't right about this, because the more she talks to this psychic woman, the more this psychic woman is giving her information to do things that are uncouth. Like, she is now telling her, you go ahead and you get you a doll. She is telling her, this psychic is giving her information to make voodoo dolls, because a certain person has pissed her off, and she told her how to do it. Make sure you cross the hands and the feet so you can bind them against the spell that you're like. See, didn't I tell you? I said, now you just telling me this, and I tell you, because this is going to get worse and worse. I said, you had better tell her to stop, right? And she said, well, look, she also said this. I said, look, now you need to be careful, because now what's going to happen is this information that she's giving her, it could possibly backfire on you, because she already told you that this psychic then told her family member that there is somebody, she had her draw cards and stuff, and I understand all this stuff because I looked into it. So I'm like, it's like, you know how you learn, any military person, you learn your enemy, learn how they operate. So that's how I know all this stuff. And so when people say some of this stuff, I'm like, I know what you're talking about. I know what you was about to do. Although I may not tell you, but you won't hem me up. I know what you're doing. I know how to combat that. I know exactly how to pinpoint my prayer to stop what you're doing, because I know exactly what you're doing. So when she came and told me, I was like, I can tell you exactly. And what she told her, she saw a card for envy come up. There's going to be somebody in your family she said, yeah, they're jealous of you. You're going to be trying to share this stuff with them. I said, well, first of all, that's general. You will be able to pin that on anybody, right? So even with prophecies that people say from y'all, I say, no, that's really general if you look at it, because they can call, that's an open-ended prophecy, which they can turn in their favor either way it go, depending on what happened, right? So I'm understanding all this stuff. So the whole point of me telling you this is people that are psychics that are using this. I'm not even necessarily gonna say gift, because some people do have the gift and they pervert it and they use it for perverse ways and begin making money off of it. But some people don't necessarily have a gift. They just have information and they know how to use it, right? Just like with people who do the horoscopes and this and that, and some people who understands this about the clock in the sky and when different people are sent to the earth. Those that know this, they can take it and use it for good, and they can take it and use it for bad, right? So you have some people, or you got even people that have like matchmaking services and stuff like this, because they understand this about the zodiac. They call it the zodiac. They're able to make good pairs, right? Because they understand it. They understand the power behind it and what it can actually do in this world. So now it looks like you an expert and you got information from the God of heaven and earth, right? No, you're perverse and you better stop it, right? You shouldn't be using this. If you're going to use this, you use it to help people. You stop things. You don't have to go into it making a living off of it like a lot of people do. But it should be a tool or something that you can use in your course of life to help correct things that you see are out of order. And you can give wisdom based on these things. Well, baby, this is what I understand. And you will give some accurate information whereby people will label you a prophet, my G. But I'm telling you what it is. As I began to understand this, and as I understood more of this, and I read through the 6th and the 7th book of Moses and how they break all this down, I am completely blown. Like they said, take the 5 books of Torah. You take this stuff is too good. We need to keep this hidden. And all this stuff that they done kept hidden, I can see how they take it and they manifest in kingdoms for themselves. Like they have this wisdom manifested to them from the creator of heaven and earth. And truly it was, but it's information that they have stolen from Yahuah's people, and they've divided, you get this portion, you get that portion. We're going to keep this portion right here because we got some things we can do with this. And they tell everybody else, call that of the devil, label them witches, burn anybody that's saying this. We can't let this information get. I'm like, it just blows my mind. So a lot of time now I just sit back and I look at stuff and I tell like, yeah, I ain't have revelation, but because what I understand and what I know, they're fooling you, right? They're not who they say they are. And once you see it and you can understand it, you can see clear through people's crap. That's really, I'm telling you. So some people are not who they say they are, right? Y'all got to be really careful for some of this stuff that people are using that Yahuah has put in nature, and they're taking it and using it as a monopoly over people. They keep you dumbed down and don't explain some of this stuff to you, but it's there for the taking, if your eyes are open and I don't know, Yahuah just had to lead you to it, right? Okay, so that's what this is talking about here, right? It's going through the zodiac signs and stuff, but this is clearly can be seen in the sky, right? If you understand it just a little bit. But yeah, if you want to look that up, the 6th and the 7th book of Moses, you'll find it on Amazon. I think I probably paid like $50. I think I paid like $50 for it. But they got the 6th and the 7th book of Moses, and they also have the 8th, 9th, and 10th book of Moses. I got that one too. Some of y'all might not be ready for some of that stuff, and I will tell you, be careful. That's us. I'm not going to discourage you from getting it and looking into it, but I'm going to tell you, be careful. There's a lot of wisdom and stuff in there that, some people get it, be like, what is this garbage? But as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I began to see things illuminated that I've learned and seen all over my life. Like, what is this? I'm like, clearly they've taken this from here. Some people, they'll get it and their eyes will be completely closed to it. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess Yahuah just kind of prepared me up to this time, and I began to notice stuff as I read it. So let me go back. We about done with this. Let me go back up here to the balance, where it's talking about the balance, like Lady Liberty, the balancing scales. Okay. The balance. Israel obeys the law against unjust balances in the Torah and must therefore be protected by the balance. The scorpion. Hey, chill, y'all. Scorpion, or the Scorpio, right? Israel is like unto me, for he too is called Scorpion, the archer. The sons of Judah are masters of the bow, and the bows of mighty men directed against them will be broken. The goat. It was the goat that brought blessing unto Jacob, the ancestor of Israel, and it stands to reason that the blessing of the ancestor cannot cause misfortune unto the descendant. The water bearer. His dominion is likened unto a bucket, and therefore the water bearer cannot bring but him good. The fishes were the only constellation which, at least according to Haman's interpretation, made unfavorable prognostications as to the fate of the Hebrews. It said that the Hebrews would be swallowed like fish. Yahuah, however, spake, O thou villain, fish are sometimes swallowed, but sometimes they swallow, and thou shalt be swallowed by the swallowers.
Get my posse back down here.
Yeah, I see. And when Haman began to cast lots, Yahuah said, O thou villain, son of a villain, why, what thy lots have shown thee is thy own lot, that thou wilt be hung. All right, y'all, so we're going to stop that right here for today, and we'll pick this back up tomorrow.
Me and my posse got something to talk to you about.
Okay, I'll talk to you and your posse in a second.
Ain't that right? Ain't that right?
Yes. So what you got to say to me?
Tell mommy what you got to say. I speak for her. I speak on her behalf. So on her behalf.
Let me close out this session. Okay, y'all. So thank y'all for hanging out with me today while we read through this. I'm gonna remember. I'll post a thing about Trayvon Martin if you didn't get to watch it yesterday. So go back. I'm telling you, sister, it is worth the watch. So it is Saturday, April the 24th, 2021, day 136 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 805. That is without the Sabbath days and the Sabbath feast days added in. We read 2 Kings 15, 16, and 17, and we read the Legends of the Jews, page 499 to 500. Yep, so 500. All right. So let's hop on over here to the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6. Remember the first 21 verses? Is the Nazarite vow. Nazarite vow can be taken by a man or a woman. And the blessing starts at verse 22 all the way to the end of the chapter, verse 27. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron. Bella, chill. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. We'll go ahead and get out of here. They talking about unicorns and stuff. So I will see y'all tomorrow. Bright and early. 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love y'all. Peace.